My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. In today's Gospel, Jesus invites us to go up to the mountain of the Beatitudes, from where he announces the new law of love. Jesus is asking us to go the extra mile, free of limits. So to begin our 10 minutes with Jesus, I would like to share a very inspirational story about someone who has benefited by the habit of going the extra mile. It happened many years ago when an elderly lady was strolling through a Pittsburgh department store, obviously killing time. So she passed counter after counter without anyone paying any attention to her, because all the clerks had spotted her as an idle looker who had no intention of buying. So they made it a point of looking in another direction when she stopped at their counters. Finally, the lady came to a counter that was attended by a young clerk who politely asked if he might be able to help her. So she replied, "No, I am just killing time. I'm just waiting for the rain to stop so I can go home." "So, very well, madam," the young man said with a smile. "May I bring out a chair for you?" And then, without waiting for an answer, he brought out a chair. After the rain slacked, the young man took the old lady by the arm. He escorted her to the street and bade her goodbye. And as she left, she asked him for his card. Then you fast forward to several months later, and the owner of this department store received a letter asking that this young man be sent to Scotland to take an order for the furnishings of a home. So the owner of the store wrote back that he was sorry because the young man did not work in the house furnishings department. But he explained that in any case, he would be glad to send an experienced man to do the job. But then back came a reply that no one would do except this particular young man. And the letters were signed by Andrew Carnegie. He was a Scottish-American industrialist and a philanthropist who led the expansion of the American steel industry in the late 19th century. In fact, he became one of the richest Americans in history. So this was the man who signed the letters. The man who became a leading philanthropist in the United States and in the British Empire. In fact, during the last 18 years of his life, he gave away $350 million to charities, to foundations, and to universities, which was almost 90% of his fortune. So it turned out that the idle old lady who on that rainy day in that American department store was just waiting for the rain to stop was Mr. Carnegie's mother. So the young clerk was sent to Scotland to furnish Carnegie's Skibo Castle. He received an order for several $1,000s worth of household furnishings, and with it, a partnership in the store. This is a very inspiring story, very much attuned to what Jesus challenges us to do in today's gospel. That we need to be generous and imaginative to be able to go beyond the restrictions that life presents. So let's read the Gospel. The Gospel of today's Mass. Jesus said to his disciples, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, offer no resistance to one who is evil. When someone strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. If anyone wants to go to law with you over your tunic, hand him your cloak as well. And should anyone press you into service for 1 mile, go with him for 2 miles. Give to the one who asks of you, and do not turn your back on one who wants to borrow." Yes, Jesus, we see in this gospel that you're challenging us to extend ourselves beyond what is expected. And we ask you to inspire us, to help us so that we might be free to always act with a generous spirit. Today we pray to be able to discover where we need more generosity to respond to the challenge that Jesus puts before us in today's gospel. Perhaps you're already doing it. Maybe by helping with someone else's task when they didn't ask us. Or for being the first to forgive after an argument, regardless of who was at fault. Or maybe for leaving the best portion for someone else without the others knowing it. So a good setting to exercise all of that heartfelt and selfless generosity is at home. And since our family members see us all the time, they know us too well. So they won't simply be impressed with our efforts. Our generosity then will need to find creative ways to serve our family members. And perhaps after considering these things, we see that we have given ourselves too little to our Lord. We have given ourselves too little to the others. And let's resolve to give them the best that we have, not just with the leftovers of our lives. Our time has to be available, especially for those who are most in need, for those who, in one way or another, depend on us. So let's give ourselves in the small details. For example, through a small praise or a smile, a positive tone, avoiding negative criticism, or praying for their intentions. All of that seem insignificant, but in their constancy, they amount to much love for God and much love for the others. If there's one good model of consistent generosity, that's Mary, the mother of Jesus and our mother. So let's ask her to help us have that freedom and that joy of a truly generous heart. Consider, for example, Mary's calling to be the mother of Jesus. Before the grandeur of her calling, she responds without any hesitation, "Behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it done to me according to your word." And she gives her whole self to what God asked. In that very instance, all her personal plans were shelved in a corner in order to give way to what God wanted. And she did not give excuses. From that moment onwards, Jesus was the most important ideal of her life. And she lived a generosity without limits throughout her entire life. There are a number of pages in the Gospel which reveal how she practiced generosity, like when she attended to her cousin Elizabeth, who was waiting to give birth to John, the cousin of Jesus. Or of how she took care that the others are happy and worry-free, as witnessed in the wedding feast at Cana. She was habitually concerned about the others. So Jesus, we want to look at your mother today so that we may imitate her in that generosity without conditions. And so that we may feel that joy of giving ourselves and the joy of giving. Together with Mary, we want to understand that we are meant to give ourselves. And united to her, we will understand deeper those words of our Lord written in the Acts of the Apostles. It is better to give than to receive. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.